Okay, good evening, everybody. It is now 1900. Let's hear who's out there for tonight's check-ins. ZS6OP is standing by. Okay, acknowledging ZS6SJR. Good evening, Stephen. Let's hear if anybody else is out there. ZS6OP is standing by. Okay, let's hear if anybody else is out there. ZS6OP is standing by. I'm just acknowledging that in actual fact connected via Zoom. So good evening to Dirk as well. Any other check-ins? ZS6OP is standing by. All right, 1904. It's 1904. Let's do this as a second last check-in. ZS6OP is standing by. Right, last call for check-ins. ZS6OP is standing by. Okay, nothing heard. It's 1905. Good evening, everybody. Let's get started with this week's check-ins. Radio amateurs that are wishing to join via Zoom, please go ahead. Zoom is open at the moment. I'd like to say greetings to one and all and welcome to this week's net. If you do not have the Zoom link, please contact me on WhatsApp 082-859-2684 and I'll send you the link with the greatest of pleasure. So today is Sunday, 25 June 2023, and the time is 19:05. We begin the weekly net with the radio amateur check-ins on the Rudderpert repeater for 5 minutes before proceeding. This net is broadcast every Sunday evening starting at 1900 and is broadcast for the benefit of radio amateurs, disaster relief cert volunteers, and members of the general public. Therefore, this net is open to all and sundry, and any person who has any interest is more than welcome to join us. Everyone is welcome to participate using either amateur radio, Zoom, or both. I'd like to remind all the radio amateurs who have not checked in that you do not need to be a member of any group or club to check in or to use the repeater or any of the amateur bands. All that is required from you is that you have a valid amateur radio license issued by IPASA, which automatically grants you the right to use any of the amateur radio bands at any time. There is no need to ask for or be granted permission from anyone to use the repeaters or the amateur radio bands. Okay, ZS6OP is returning. I would also like to encourage all listeners and participants to share the weekly net Zoom link with everyone they know throughout South Africa. Doing so will help us grow the weekly net and will contribute to disseminating information as far and wide as possible. And if you have not checked in on amateur, please do so. I know many people are listening. So now it's time to unpack the weekly COVID-19 figures. Just a quick reminder that many tracking sites have closed down, including the NICD. I can therefore only provide the information that is now published on the World Health Organization's website as follows. Globally, 767,518,723 cases have been reported by the WHO as at 5:56 on the 28th of June, compared to the 767,187,000 in the previous week. This is a global increase of 331,627, whereas last week we saw an increase of 202,107, so an additional 100,000 cases week on week. The global death toll now stands at 6,947,000 compared to the previous week of 6,945,000. That is an increase of 1,400 new cases or new deaths being reported this week, whereas the previous week we had 2,300 deaths being reported. Okay, ZS6OP returning. Moving on to Mpox. Mpox is now sitting at 88,060 cases globally as at the 27th of June 2023. In total, compared to the previous week's total of 87,972. It's only 88 cases this week, whereas last week we saw 38 new cases being reported. South Africa still sitting at 5 confirmed cases with no deaths to date. Right, ZS6OP is returning. Let's move on to cholera. Now, despite everything that happened in Hammanskraal almost a month ago, NICD, Department of Health, and all other role players have not updated or provided any official updates with regards to the number of cases. And the last reported figures I have are basically based on information provided by News 24 as at the 11th of June. So therefore, we're still looking at 166 cases nationally with 32 deaths. Same thing actually applies with the mumps. Mumps are still sitting at 580 cases countrywide as at the 26th of May. Again, no further updates being provided by DIH, NICD, or any other party, including News 24. KZN, 280 cases, in Mpumalanga, 97 and 64 cases in Gauteng. Diphtheria also, we've had no further cases. As at April, we're still sitting with those 2 cases of toxigenic diphtheria disease that were identified. And of course, the clinicians throughout the country are still urged to have high index of suspicion for diphtheria and to notify suspected cases and to send the specimens to the laboratories for testing. Right, ZS6OP is returning. Now, finally, on our communicable diseases reporting, we currently still have the outbreak of measles. And again, these figures are skewed on a week-to-week basis. However, tonight I can report that as at 30th of June 2023, South Africa has 1,100 reported cases of measles, compared to last week's total of 1,098. A total of 2 new cases. And for the new listeners out there, you probably think, well, then why am I reporting on it? Here's the reason. Next week, we'll probably find that they've adjusted the figures, and the 2 new cases from this week will become 20 cases being reported next week. So these figures are skewed whichever way, and ultimately 1,100 cases of measles in the country is of major concern. Limpopo is still leading the pack with 494 cases. They're the ones that reported the extra 2, followed by the Northwest of 217 cases. And of course, Gauteng has 179. The problem with measles, of course, is that, if we get it into one of the children in the schools, we can actually have an entire school infected literally overnight. So this is something that we definitely have to consider. ZS6OPS returning. Now, let's have a look at other World Health Organization news. The WHO report dated the 27th of June 2023 states the following. This summer will be the first in more than 3 years that many of us will enjoy without the looming threat of COVID-19, but the life-threatening virus has not gone away completely. WHO's Regional Director for Europe, Hans Kluge, told reporters at a press conference from Copenhagen each week that coronavirus still causes at least 1,000 new deaths across the region. He said, outlining other health concerns at the start of the holiday season. Coping with long COVID over the first 3 years of the global health emergency, 36 million people across the region may have experienced long COVID, a complex condition that scientists still know very little about. According to data from the WHO's partner, the Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation at the University of Washington in the United States. That's approximately 1 in 30 Europeans over the last 3 years, explained Dr. Kluge, underscoring that those affected may still be finding it hard to return to normal life. Besides harming people, in its protracted form, COVID-19 exploited an epidemic of diseases, including cancers, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, chronic lung illness, or illnesses at least, which account for 75% of the mortality in our region today, he said, reiterating the World Health Organization's call for more research to develop comprehensive diagnostic and treatment of COVID, of long COVID, my apologies. Long COVID may obstruct return to normal life for 36 million Europeans. ZS6OPS returning. That's actually a scary thought. If they've only done this survey or quantitative survey and have established 36 million people in Europe alone, I wonder what that figure is going to look like when they bring the Americas in and bring Africa in and the rest of Asia in. This 36 million out of 767 odd million people, this is my personal opinion that I'm now expressing. If 767 odd million people globally have been affected, that 36 million could in actual fact be 10 times or if not 20 or 30 times. Well, probably not 30, but at least 20 times the current figure. In other words, we could be coming closer to 500 million, 600 million people that may be suffering the effects of long COVID. And I think this is something that seriously needs to be investigated. And those that did contract COVID-19 in the last 3 years will only be able to see what's happening as more and more research is undertaken. Okay, now finally in closing, we'd like to encourage everyone to register as a disaster relief cert volunteer and to prepare and train to assist local communities for when disaster strikes. And of course, COVID-19 was one of those incidents where volunteers could have actually reached out on a care and comfort campaign. That being said, let's just check any radio amateurs who have not yet checked in. Please provide your call sign now and I'll add you to this week's checking list. ZS6OPS standing by. Okay, no further check-ins on amateur radio. I'd like to thank all of those who have checked in this week, as well as those who have joined via Zoom. And as the COVID-19 pandemic is still ongoing and still infecting thousands weekly, please remember to physically distance yourself and to wear a mask to protect others, especially the elderly who could lose their lives if infected with COVID-19. Remember that it is always best to sanitize or wash your hands on a regular basis in any event. Doing so will also assist in stopping the spread of other respiratory diseases as well. So for the a week moving forward, be safe, be prepared, and of course, be happy. This is ZS6OPS now releasing the Roodepoort for general use. Cheers all. And for anybody on the community emergency response radio network, at least, if you are still there and you did monitor tonight, maybe just give me your call sign so I've got a record of it as well. Echo 1 standing by if you're listening.
Echo 1, this is 1019. Over.
Okay, thank you, 1019. I wonder if anybody else listened in on Hotel 2. This is Echo 1 standing by. Please go ahead with your call sign. Over.
1008. You can see the whole conversation. Yeah, you can see the next bit.
Thank you, 1008. Any other listeners out there on Hotel 2 tonight? This is Echo 1 standing by. Over.
Echo 1, this is 1010. That also had a listening. Over.
Thank you, 1010. Any further listeners out there tonight? Echo 1 standing by. Okay, last call. Were there any other listeners on Hotel 2? Echo 1 standing by. Okay, nothing else. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I really do hope that you did find it interesting. I will try and do the broadcast every Sunday evening on Hotel 2 moving forward for the benefit of the general community. I think this is something that needs to be made available to you as well and not just be restricted to radio amateurs moving forward. And of course, you know, there will be relevant information from time to time that will come up on the bulletin that may not be shared via the WhatsApp groups. And by may not, I don't mean should not be, but might just not be at the right or appropriate time to do it on the group, and I'd rather do it on air. On that note, I'd like to thank you for listening in. Please return to Hotel 1. Echo 1 will be standing by on Hotel 1 and Hotel 2. Cheers all. Okay, there we go. Mr. Dirk, you can unmute yourself and say hello.